Welcome to another show of Nard Knows. And of course, I'm your host, Nard Davis Jr. And I'm always excited, but I'm even more excited for this guy because it's been in the works for some time. Very busy man. And Zack Moss, former University of Utah star running back, now with the Cincinnati Bengals. And we're going to get into that, man. But first, how are you, man, in this stage in your career?
I'm doing good, man. Appreciate you having me on. Life's been good, man. Just, been in the grind, working, enjoying it with the family and things of that nature. But been good, man. How you been?
I've been great, man. And I'm in an even better mood now, man. Like this interview is making my day right now, bro. So I thank you so much for taking the time. You're going into your sixth year in the season. What does it take to create longevity in NFL?
Yeah, it's definitely hard to, be in this league for X amount of years. I think every guy always has like a number they carve out in their mind where they want to get to the goal and things of that nature. But the life expectancy is like 2 years. So just being able to be in this league now for more years than that, doubling that up over that. So it's hard to do. Consistency, I think, is the main thing. Kind of showing up, being the same person every day, um, being a guy that coaches can trust. Because word travels around this league. It's hard to really stay on one team. Really, in any professional sports, that you kind of move around all the time. But being someone consistent, people to trust, in the building, off the field, outside of the building. All those things go a long way. Everyone kind of knows each other in this business, stuff like that. So I think connections and consistency is the main two things on I think how you can obviously you got to produce on the field and do your thing out there. I think that's a that goes without saying much. But it's all the little small things because you see guys who are able to produce on the field, but they're not able to do the small things off the field that will have an impact on you on the field and things like that. So you see it all the time, guys who are really good but can't stay, you know, out of trouble or in harm's way or whatever. And that limits how really good they can be on the field. So, it's hard to do. This league is hard to be in and stay in, and um, just the impact that it has on our bodies, injuries and all that type of stuff. But I think consistency and connections is the main thing.
And I definitely want to dive a little bit more into that later in the interview. But let's talk about your time at the U because that's part of the foundation that led you to where you are today. And I'm here based in Salt Lake, and you live here. Not to air you out, but your love for Salt Lake runs deep. You live here, your family's here, but you're in Cincinnati right now, obviously.
Yeah.
Talk about your time at the U and what your memories here mean to you.
Yeah, ton of great memories, man. I mean, from I always go back to 2016 class, the guys who I came in with, and I think the biggest thing I always take away is obviously the 2016 class. I always look at us as the guys who were able to, really change the program to where they are now. We played in the first two Pac-12 championship games. Obviously, we ended up coming up short on both of them. I was able to play in my senior year one, not the junior year, but um, ended up coming up short. But a lot of those guys that were on those teams with us were the guys that took it over and ended up winning the next two in a row. So, four straight Pac-12 championship appearances, two wins. Feel like when we came in, we were kind of still like in the middle of in the pack. When we came in 2016, that was kind of like the feeling and things of that nature. You know, it was like Washington and SC who were the big schools in that conference that were doing their thing. And I feel like we changed that by 2018. So, the biggest memories for me, obviously, was able to do a lot of good things on the field, personally and all those type of things. But all that is, pretty much equated to team success. My best years were when we were having the best years as a team. So, I equate that to that. But I always take away the biggest thing is, feeling like we were that class that was able to turn the tide, turn the culture a little bit. And
How does Zach Moss end up in Utah or at the University of Utah? Talk about that recruiting process.
yeah, I've told this story too many times now. But um, so I was committed to the University of Miami first. Um, Obviously, I have a lot of roots at that school. Cousins played there. Obviously, I'm from Miami, so I never even took an official visit to the school just 'cause I can go there at any time of the day. Um, but I was just committed there from a junior year pretty much, all the way up until senior year, somewhere to almost up to the end of that. I ended up decommitting from there. Kind of just started over fresh. But obviously Tyler Huntley and Demar Simpkins were both committed to Utah um, our entire senior season. Um, always heard them talking about it, but I hadn't had much conversation with the school and the coaches and things of that nature. I was committed to Miami, so at that time Utah recruiting process was a little different. If you recruit committed to a big time school, essentially they didn't really go at you super hard because they felt like you were going to, stick with whatever school that was. And, obviously that's changed over the years. We're now in that realm of, we can beat out schools like Miami, Tennessee, FSU. We can do that now. 2015, it wasn't really gonna happen. But so I mean, mainly the big thing was obviously Snoop and um, Damari were committed. They ended up enrolling early. And I was still in high school while they were, doing spring ball up there, and they were telling me about, my biggest thing was being able to play early. That's the main thing I wanted to do, was to play early. I had just started playing running back as a senior, so I was really like intrigued by the position. I had some good success as a senior, so I was like, you find something new, you're eager at it, like for me, like when I first started playing golf a little bit, I started thinking I was good and went and bought the clubs and the whole nine. You kind of get, you know, real jittery about it. But so they telling me about it and things of that nature. And at this time, I'm, decommitted from Miami, so I'm thinking about where I want to go. And Utah ended up, finally talking to me. They ended up seeing my highlights from Snoop and those guys, and Coach Dennis Erickson, who was a legend in Miami, legendary football coach through and through, but especially in Miami, obviously he coached there, won a national championship there. That's a ton of respect. I mean, that's a different time in football when he was coaching, especially if you're from Miami, you know that. So I mean, when he was recruiting me and talking to me, and Coach Shaw was also a part of that. But the biggest thing to me, man, I was, 18 years old, 17 years old. I'm like, you know, probably shell shocked about who this is, talking to me and wanting me to come play in his room and things of that nature. So, it wasn't really hard to, realize where I wanted to go after that. Never for me in the recruiting process, it never was about, distance, being away from home and things of that nature. I understood early, football, you have to sacrifice a lot of things that most people at 15, 16, 17 year old just don't do. So for me, I had a mindset of that already. So um, Utah and Tennessee, and I wanted to play early. It was going to be a little hard to do that at Tennessee because they had Jalen Hurd and Alvin Kamara. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so they had both of those guys. I mean, I went for an official visit, hung out with those guys, and that was great. The SEC, different world. But I knew I wanted to play. I didn't want to be, the third guy. Then they had another guy who ended up being in the NFL. So we had, I mean, I was technically as a freshman would have, and I was coming in with another guy who was a four-star recruit. So that's an uphill battle with a lot of different things. Um, and sometimes it's not about the name of the school; it's about what you can do at the school. So Utah made sense for me. Joe Williams was the lead guy. He was senior, so I was like, at worst case scenario, I'm second and I play. Um, and then sophomore year, I'm able to, be the guy and, kind of take that wherever it goes. So that was really, how I even got on the radar was from the guys showing highlights. And then, Dennis Harrison being who he is and stepping in, um, and pretty much, letting me know, this is definitely a good place for me to be.
But dang, shout out to Snoop and them, man. Y'all in the same division now, ironically. So you're
Yeah.
gonna bump into them eventually. And then you said you have cousins tied to Miami. Are you related to Santana Moss? Is that what you're telling me right now?
Yeah. Santana and Sonora. Yeah.
How did I not? How did I not know that? My show is predicated upon me knowing things. And Santana Moss is my favorite receiver. I don't know if you've seen me post, but I literally just posted.
Yeah, the Miami University of Miami clips of him. Yeah.
He is the reason why I wore number 6 in high school and college, and when I was playing ball out here for some leagues out here. Like, wow, wow, oh, that just blew my mind. Yeah. All right, cool. And he's a real one too, because he actually liked the post. You can always tell the bougie players when they don't
Yeah.
interact. But that's another conversation. That's a whole other conversation. But we ain't. This is about you, Senior and Small. So definitely, I followed his career too with the Giants and everything. Um, okay, that threw me off a little bit. So back to you. Talk about your favorite moment after you on the field.
Oof. On the field. Uh, for me, it probably was my sophomore year. I got two of them, but they kind of clashing together. Just because they were back-to-back games. Um, I think the first one being the Colorado game, my sophomore year. Uh, I mean, like I said, I started playing running back as a senior in high school. Um, so then my freshman year, I had a lot of ups and downs. I had a calf injury, then I had a toe injury. Um, Joe Williams he retired and he came back. I was a starter for 3 games. Then I got the toe injury. Then he came back. So that was hard because I felt like I was just getting a little better game by game as a freshman. Um, and when he came back, obviously he came back and went crazy, ran for over 1,400 some yards in like 7 games or something like that. It was ridiculous. But um, I had a lot of maturing in that year, which I needed. So then when 2017 came around and it was all on me pretty much, I ended up winning the battle. Um, I struggled for a few games, kind of just finding it, like, you know, understanding the game, understanding what I'm looking at and things of that nature. It's kind of hard to be, essentially your second full year playing running back in college and trying to learn this on the fly a little bit. So it wasn't until, I caught a nice little shot at the back end of the year, but it wasn't until the last game of the year versus Colorado. In 2017, we were not good. I think we were probably 5-6 just that game, and we needed that last win to get into the bowl, get a bowl game. So obviously it's a night game. We're playing Colorado, who's not very good themselves. I think they were probably the same thing. So we're both fighting for bowl eligibility. You got seniors who obviously want to go bowling and all this type of stuff. So, coaches got you all riled up and things like that. But, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I've, I've done a lot of good things this season. And my whole mindset was always to leave my junior year. Um, I think that's anybody's goal who goes into college, but definitely a running back just because you don't want to put too much on your body. Um, so I think I'm probably at 1,000 yards, maybe close to it by this point in the last game of the year, probably really close. And I'm like, okay, I gotta have one of those games. Like I gotta have a signature game to really like close this thing out and give yourself momentum to go into, to college, to the off season for college, which isn't really much, but just to go into that off season to really like really want to push myself and know what I can do and get better at. So um, I think I ended up running for definitely over 160 yards, maybe 180 or something like that. I'm not even positive on how much it was, but I think I scored 2 touchdowns that game, and I was feeling unstoppable. Like I'm running dudes over. I'm seeing the holes before it happens. I'm being able to like the whole game catching passes, making guys miss, breaking tackles, picking up blitzes, and I'm like, okay, this is like one of those like out of body experiences where I'm like just playing so good. And that's probably like one of my favorite clips is because that's when I really realized, okay, I can play this position. I kind of identify what type of player, I was going to be or I wanted to be. So that first game in 2017 to end the year. So then to get into the bowl game, right, it's the next game. We ended up playing West Virginia, uh, Dallas Zaxby Bowl, something like that. It was a terrible bowl game, but we were in Dallas. It's cold, it's rainy. We playing at the old Cotton Bowl Stadium. I mean, we had a good amount of fans. I think West Virginia probably had a good amount of fans. West Virginia was a solid team. They weren't great, but they had a lot of like good players that ended up that I've seen now throughout my year in the league. Seen played against a few of those guys. They had a linebacker, a few guys on offense. Will Greer, I believe, was the quarterback, something like that. And so they got a few guys that were NFL caliber guys. So it was a good test for us. So sophomore year, um, we get into that game. I think I had 120, 130, maybe somewhere in there. So I'm going back to back, like big 100-yard games, not the 105s where you kind of sneak into the 100 yards. It's the no, this is the exclamation point 100-yard game.
You surpassed
Um,
100.
yeah. So the first game, Colorado, I'm running guys over, I'm finishing in the red zone, having nice runs, making guys miss. Okay, that's okay. I can take that. Colorado, West Virginia game, I break a long like 60-yard run. Okay, now I'm showing that I can do the top end speed. I can have the breakaway runs, hit the hole, burst, vision, all that type of things, right? Um, Catching the ball again in that game. So that was big for me because I understood, I can do those things. And that's what pretty much catapulted me into who I became in 2018, before the injury, and then obviously 2019. Those two games pretty much sealed it for me and let me know, okay, I'm here. This is what I'm going to do. And I was only a sophomore. So I'm like, I can get fast. I can get stronger. I'm really playing off of just, God given ability right now. So once I get into I became so much more of a film junkie, like just being in there, just watching it, learning from myself. My Coach McDonald did a great job staying on top of me from my junior year to my sophomore year. I mean, from my sophomore year to junior year to senior, like he just making me better day in, day out, understanding how much film was going to be important and all those type of things because he knew my mission, he knew my goal, he wanted me to get there. So, I think those two games definitely is what, ended up accumulating, allowing me to be able to do what I was able to do the next 2 seasons.
And that created a full body of work that led to you being a third round draft pick. And, that is an accomplishment no matter the expectations you may have had. But when it comes to the draft process, I definitely want to know about your draft experience, but you get info and data about where you may go. Were they
Yeah.
accurate or was it a surprise that you ended up in the third round?
So my junior year, I mean, to me, a lot of people look at my senior year as my best season. Um, to me, like it's not like I had like stat wise, yeah, that was my best stat season. I ended up playing a whole full year, with all the knowledge and everything I had gained. But 2018 was by far my best season, like mentally, physically, everything. Like the player I was in 18 is like I was like, man, I was ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
I had 1,000 yards in 7 games. Like still had 3 more games to play at the end of the year, plus a bowl and all those other things. So I was already over 1,000, had 7, 8 touchdowns in 7 games. So I was like, man, I'm I'm ready to go. I'm already mentally I'm packing up things in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up getting a second round grade in 18. So I'm thinking, all right, we had a few games left. I think we had Oregon, we had BYU, um, and maybe Colorado. So those are the last 2 games, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm like, all right, well, BYU, all right, we do that. That's not gonna be a problem. Never lost. So I was like, that's not gonna be a problem. Oregon was gonna be fun, because we had lost to Oregon previously, in Oregon my sophomore year. Um, they had Justin Herbert, and that was pretty cool because we ended up playing them the next year in the Pac-12 championship game. So I was like, all right, go coming off the game where I just had over 100 plus versus Arizona State. Got Oregon at home. That was gonna be my first game my mom ever came to while I was in school. So got the Oregon game was lined up, night game. Then Colorado, we always beat them as well. So it was like, all right, I mean, this is pretty smooth sailing right now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we just got to make it look good the last 3 games and walk out of here clean and healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had a second round grade that year. Obviously, I got hurt, um, which a lot of people don't like. All the reports is I got hurt getting to bed, which is true. Like I ended up getting into my bed and my knee locked up. But realistically, you know, I ended up playing on torn meniscus all the way from January to November. And I didn't know it was torn. So, like I said, physically and mentally, that was my best season. And I say physically, and I had a torn meniscus,
Mm,
which is crazy to even think about.
mm.
Like my knee locked up a few times throughout my junior year, middle of a game, literally just like kick it out and then get right back to work. So uh, it was that was my favorite year. But I had a second round grade that year, and then my senior year, it was going to be anywhere from a 2 to 3. And obviously, you know, 3 made more sense because of like people don't understand. Like, all right, my junior year, if I came out, you know, I was gonna go probably second because there wasn't a lot of running backs in that draft class, right? It was Josh Jacobs, believe, was in that class. Um, David Montgomery was another guy, and I think those are like the main 2 guys I can think off the top of my head. So I was in the top 4 of that realm. So I'm like, okay, you know, it's a very very uh, short class. It's like not a lot of top guys in that class. But then when you understand, that was a big thing for me, which I was trying to figure out, do I want to come back? Do I want to go? Right. This is my first real ever injury, and it's a knee, and I'm a running back, and I don't know essentially, you get the surgery, you get back out of the field, you don't really know how that feels, how you're gonna play, what type of player you're gonna be. And that's a lot of things to try to figure out when you're going into the NFL. Like that's not something you really want to figure out in the NFL. So ended up coming back, obviously, and I knew I was gonna go anywhere from 2 to 3, mainly because draft class that I was in was deep. This, I mean, probably 10 guys that were gonna go within the first 4 rounds, the running back. Um, and you never know how the draft is gonna go, like as in the order, once how things are gonna run. Like, all right, we're gonna get a run on receivers here, run on running backs, run on, whatever. For us, obviously 2020 was just a deep class with talent, receivers, quarterbacks, the whole nine. You had guys like Jordan Love, you had guys like uh, Jonathan Taylor, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So the class was just deep, and I'm not even didn't even name the receivers. I can't remember who it was, but DK Metcalf went second round in that class. Um, so you know, running backs was a weird one just because the first running back taken was Clyde, and I think he went to the Chiefs maybe with the 31st or 32nd pick. So no running back went in the first round besides him. So now you got like 9 dudes, like I said, in the 2 to 4 range. You got 9 dudes that's gonna go now, and I think JT was maybe second. You had DeAndre Swift in that class as well. So it was, I mean, the class is so deep and so talented. It really just ended up depending on, just the team, right? The GMs and the coaches and who they felt was going to be best fit for, uh, you know,
Their
their
system.
organization. So, I didn't know. I was like, maybe I'll go second, maybe I'll go third. I knew I wasn't going any further than that. It just was going to figure out where I was going to go, who was going to make that call, when it was going to happen. But for a lot of people, it's stressful. Like the whole entire um, days leading up to that, it's very stressful. Pro day, we didn't even have a pro day that year with COVID, which was my year was COVID, so I didn't even have a real draft like party experience or anything like that. So for me, it wasn't really stressful. I was just kind of you know, I always knew the work I was putting in, so I knew this day was going to come regardless of what happened. Like I knew I was putting in the work, I had the numbers or whatever I needed to do. So it just was going to figure out itself, honestly. Um, Obviously, I ended up, third round to Buffalo.
And you alluded to my next question. That 2020 season you played during COVID, no fans. What was that like in overall with your experience with Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs in that, offense?
Yeah, that was it was a crazy time. Obviously, I mean, feels like it was yesterday, but now it also feels at the same time like we were moved so far because how much things have gotten right back to normal. But getting drafted there to Buffalo, obviously, I didn't know much about the team. Like as soon as I got drafted, once I went through all the process of getting on the phone with people, having family, my wife there, agents and stuff like that, enjoying all that stuff. First, next thing I did was, you know, go on YouTube and try to find clips. I didn't know. who Josh Allen was because at this time I didn't watch much NFL football, like unless it was, um, like big name guys. I didn't really watch like the games, like especially in the regular season, like no chance. Um, and in college, you barely have time to do that, so didn't really watch it. So first thing I had to do was go on YouTube, see who these guys are, what type of team do we got, like what, like I don't know nothing about it. Like I didn't even know Frank Gore was there the year, was just leaving the year I was coming in. The only guy I knew that was on the team was Devin Singletary, and that's because we're from the same area, played against each other, stuff like that, and obviously being running backs, same class, and all that type of stuff. Um, so we were friends through that way. But I was the only guy I knew. He was one of the first people to hit me up, and welcome me to the team and all that type of stuff. So got drafted in April. I didn't meet anybody on the team essentially until like July. So because COVID, we weren't able to report. I didn't have OTAs. I didn't have mini camp. I didn't have anything that a normal rookie would have. So I pretty much went straight into a very shortened um, training camp, straight into the season. Um, so I didn't even know kind of like how practices are structured. What they're looking for. Like the NFL is totally different from college. So it was definitely like a shell shock of just how different everything was. And 2020, we didn't have all the rookies. We didn't have time to get ready for any of it. Like everything was over Zoom, so it's kind of like Zoom is more like laid back. You're not really thinking about much. So imagine trying to install football plays and talking to your coach and stuff like that. Not really much of a sense of urgency versus when you're in the building, in the rooms, and you're locked in. You know what I mean? So it was totally different. But we had a great year that year. I was able to do a lot of good things. The rookie, like I felt myself getting better week by week. The game was so different. It was so much faster. Um, and then like my style of play was just kind of like cruising to some degree. I realized I didn't really need to do all of that all the time, right? So it was a little different from learning curves and different things like that, learning, different, you know, uh, blitz pickups and all that type of stuff. So it was a good year for us. Make it to the AFC Championship game. I ended up breaking my ankle. Um, and the first playoff game, my first ever game starting was a playoff game. Uh, Ended up breaking my ankle versus the Colts, ironically, in the fourth quarter. And like I said, I was getting better week by week. I was gaining confidence week by week, week by week, week by week. So leading up to that game, I was feeling good. I felt like I was in a very good spot, like physically, how I felt, because it's a long season, long season. So felt good, all that type of stuff. First home game. We had no fans all year at home, which was weird. Uh, but at the same time, kind of like calming as well, just because you got to focus without worrying about any other aspect of nothing else. Um, Break my ankle. We ended up making it to the AFC Championship game, so that was kind of sucky not being able to be there. Ended up beat the Colts that game. Then we went to beat the Baltimore at home. Then we went to the AFC Championship, which was in Kansas City. Obviously short to Holmes and those guys, but it was a good year. I grew a lot that year. It was fun. Um, and I thought everything was gonna be kind of continuously trending up.
And then you transition over to the Colts, and you have one of the best seasons statistically, almost 800 yards, 7 total touchdowns. You know, and then on top of that, their main guy, Jonathan Taylor, a great running back in his own right, was hurt, and here you come and you maximize your opportunity, for a lack of better words, to where they had to keep you in a game from outside perspective. They had to continue to play Zack Moss even though their guy was back. That's how great
Mhm.
you were playing. What about that time with Indianapolis led you to the Bengals?
Yeah, Indy was good for me. It was a great reset. Buffalo didn't work out the way we wanted to. The offense that I guess they imagined when they drafted me really wasn't the offense that we had. Like, I think anybody would tell you still kind of to this day, up until like the last maybe 8 games of the last season, that they were in a big run team. Like they didn't run the ball a lot, and Josh is a great talent and a great player. So once you have a guy like that, sometimes you can get lost a little bit in allowing him to do a lot of the things that he does, and he does so many good things. So it's kind of hard. Like I mean, I do it on Madden. If I play with them, I probably won't run the ball much either. So it's so I understood it a little bit, and you understand that some things don't work, some things do work, and that's just what it is. So and I had a lot of things, obviously, coming back from an ankle injury, which is tough to do. Um, I had a lot of things going on personally as well. So a lot of things didn't mesh, wrong time, but it never made me think I wasn't who I knew I was, right? I mean, like I said, like the guys I came in with, uh, JT, who I always said was the best running back in our class. Um, I was second in, all these different categories, third in these different categories that he was stacked up in. So I'm like, okay. And JT is a hell of an athlete, super fast. I'm not the fastest guy in the world. So I'm like, all right, if he's able to do those things, and I was doing those things as well. I always view myself as a top three back, in 18 and 19, no matter who it was. So, you know, seeing those guys, have success when I was Buffalo, it was like, okay, well, we just need opportunity. We know we can't. I mean, no, I don't know any running back that would tell you, yeah, I'm fine with 5, 6 carries, right? That's going to be hard to do, especially when I'm splitting time with another guy, right? Like for me, I always needed to get into the flow of the game, get some carries, get going, get the O line going, things like that. That's just how the run game kind of goes. Um, you get those big break runs, once you've developed a consistency running the ball. You don't just get the ball and just run for 80 yards. Like that just doesn't happen, especially in the NFL. Like it's not gonna happen. So, I knew the opportunity really wasn't there. So, I just stayed in shape, stayed ready, stayed doing what I need to do. Um, and once I got to Indy, once they called and traded for me, that made me feel pretty good because I knew someone knew what I could do. And Chris Ballard and those guys gave me opportunity when I came in. Um, JT, I think I played 2 games with JT before he got injured, which was the ankle. He had injured it earlier in the year, came back, played some more, 2 or 3 games maybe. I backed him up, um, and he ended up getting hurt versus Minnesota late in the year, and I ended up having to play the rest of that game. Um, and then after that, I ended up starting the next 3 or 4 games, whatever that was, at the back end of the year because he was out for the year. So in all those games, I got better. Like, okay, Minnesota, that was tough just because you get thrown in the fire. Like, you just reacting to shit now.
Hmm.
Um, but then we went and played. We had the Chargers. Then we had New York Giants. Those 2 games right there, I think I ran for about 67 yards in both games each. And I'm like, okay, at this time, yards I had, the most yardage I had, and the most carries I had in NFL at this point in my third year was I had 18 carries, and then I had 85 yards. That was the most, and that both was in the same game. So I had 18 carries, 85 yards, and 2 touchdowns versus Patriots, right? And never again did I ever get close to 18 yards. I mean, 18 carries or 85 yards, just because the carries and the numbers weren't there. So I just never got that again. And that was my rookie year. So I never got to that again. So then, okay, well, my first couple games in my third year and a new team, 6, 7 yards. I'm like, okay. And these are good defenses to some degree. Obviously,
Hmm.
Giants had a good front four. Um, the Chargers were, very good on paper,
Hmm.
but been shaky, whatever. But they had good players and stuff like that, which at the end of the day, it's still hard to go out there against those guys and try to move a needle. Um, and then we ended up playing Houston to close the year out, uh, and that was boom the game that I was like, okay, I could play in this league. It had 130 yards and a touchdown. Um, First 100-yard game in the league, and that was kind of like that game that made me feel like I felt Colorado game sophomore year, where I was like, okay, it gave me that boost to go into that offseason, that next offseason, and really, really get after it, right? And obviously, that was able to have success that game, but I didn't know obviously what JT's thing was going to look like, injury, and obviously he had the contract thing going on as well. So we come back in April, um, go through OTAs, which was big for me because I had we had new head coaches, new running back coach, a lot of new system, which but at the same time it was good because he was in Philly. So when he came from Philly, he so I didn't know what JT's situation was going to look like coming back from the injury, contract and all that type of stuff, and when that was going to be done, timetable on injury and all that type of stuff. But that wasn't really for me to worry about. So, coming into, OTAs, fourth year, got new coaches, new running back coach, new everybody. My biggest thing was, make a great first impression. You understand this business. So when you get new people in, they want to bring their guys in, right? So I wanted to make sure I was one of their guys that, lasted over from the last season that team that we had. We were won only like 4 games, so it was gonna be hard to do. But I was able to get all the first team OTA reps, which was good for me. I was able to learn offense, get comfortable in offense, which for me I didn't even know. Obviously, coming up was gonna be big that I
Mm-hmm.
needed that.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to do that and really, get a lot of information and really learn the offense and get a good feel for the offense OTAs for those 2.5 months or whatever it was big. Um, so then obviously we go away for a month, come back training camp, uh, do a full week of training camp, and then the first day of pass, I break my forearm, right? And you know, most people, it's like, oh man, why me? Why right now? I got opportunity, right? Contract year, all the different things. But for me, didn't really have that feeling. I had more of a sort of like feeling of peace to some degree. Like obviously I knew it was gonna be a battle. Like I said, I didn't like JT still out at this moment in time. So I'm leading to be, the number one guy week one. And I know I don't have a lot of time. I know he's gonna come back at some point in the season. So I'm like, I don't have a lot of time to do what I need to do or whatever. Um, so when I broke it, our son was maybe 3 or 4 months at a time. So, but that gave me like peace, being able to be home for a few days, just rehabbing, like just getting mentally, I got so much stronger and better. And I have been through this injury before. I broke it in college, so I know, essentially what works, what doesn't work, what made me feel good, made me trust it. Then, so I just try to repeat that. And obviously in the NFL we have pretty good trainers and things like that, and very good medicine and all that other stuff. So I was like, all right, take what I learned from then, bring it to this now, and we could be able to multiply this. So that's what I ended up doing. I missed week one, um, and missed week one, came back week two, and I was able to, have a good game. I mean, I played uh, every snap besides one in my first game back. Uh, and I was like, it wasn't even tired, which is weird. So much adrenaline, but we played Houston in Houston, uh, and I'm like, I played every snap, had over 100 yards scrimmage and a touchdown. So that momentum that I carried from in the season to then training what I needed to, then going into OTAs, taking those reps, getting the reps with the O line, quarterbacks, and all that type of stuff, and getting understanding the offense and getting the continuity I needed with those guys. So when I came back, it was I really didn't miss a step. Like I
Mm-hmm.
still understood the nuances, the details, and all the small fine print things which you really need in the NFL because that's what makes a difference. Uh, I still had that to lean on versus not getting the physical time. Because in this time of the year, July to August, it's all about physicality. Like we're trying to get back to that physical workload that we were used to in the season to get ready for the season. So minus that, I just hadn't hit anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I already knew, but that was a big hurdle for me because I didn't know what the arm was gonna feel like. I didn't know if I was able to block guys, all these different things. I didn't know what it was gonna feel like when I get tackled, 3, 4 dudes on your back, what it feels like at the bottom of the pile. Can I push myself up off the ground? Can I hold the ball? It was a lot of, and it's my right arm, so it's a lot of different questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for running back, your feet and your right arm is probably the most in your eyes. It's very important. So, you know, thankfully I was able to, check off that box, which gave me even more momentum and you know, faith that I was going to be able to go out there and do what I want to do. And I mean, we played some really good teams in that run, um, where I was the number one guy. And, you know, like I said, just being able to have that OTAs, which was huge. for me because I didn't get that in camp. Um, Being able to do that was big just because, like I said, the reps wasn't there. But mentally, I had taken so many reps mentally, and still, even when I was out, was still taking mental reps, watching the guys, being in the meeting rooms, watching the guys go through practice, what worked, what didn't work, all these different things accumulated to me being able to have success, um, a lot of success in those first 6 weeks of the season. Because obviously, when JT came back, we ended up they were trying to catch him up to speed, a lot of stuff. So my playing time went down a lot, which, you know, still to this day is like fuels me because I was pissed a little bit because I was like, man, could have had 1,000 yards.
Yeah,
So
seriously.
when you said close to 800 yards, I'm like, man, pretty much ran for 600 in the first 5 weeks, and I'm like, when he now, like I said, like JT is such a great back, such a talent, and it was so fun to play with him. Like I learned a lot watching him, how he practice, how he get his body ready. I mean, dude is a professional. Like I always try to make sure I'm a pro and what I'm doing on and off the field. But he's definitely one of those guys where I was able to learn things from as well. Um, and that was a very good time. Like being there for that year and a half was big for me because I understood what you know. I was very good college back, but I hadn't been able to do it yet in the pros. So, and I seen a guy who was very good in college, then also translated to be very damn good in the
Mhm.
pros. So I seen what it took and I seen what it looked like to lead, be the number one guy in the room. Um, so that helped catapult me to now, obviously being in Cincinnati, um, with the opportunity I have here to go out here and help this running back room, help this team win games, which I'm very very excited for and looking forward to. But Indy was a real good place for me, real good reset uh, to really like mentally just reset, where I was at my time in my life, and obviously reset what I was able to do on the field, and pretty much reinvent myself to some degree. Uh, so nothing but love for everybody over there. Uh, Chris, uh, you know, for trading for me because you don't know what that looks like. You be in your fourth year, being in my fourth year in Buffalo. Say I was there for the next year in Buffalo, end of the contract. Like now you're just a free agent with not a lot of tape, right? So I mean, and being a running back is already super hard if you got a
Mhm.
lot of tape. So
Mhm.
having limited tape is not going to be in your favor. So I owe those guys a lot for making that move, bringing me in and seeing me as being somebody who could help the team win games. Because that's the main thing about everything. Is this league is, like I said, alluded to about the records at Utah. All that stuff comes with victories and winning, having team success, right? Like at the end of the day, that's going to come with. So they brought me in to win games and do things and keep this thing riding, and help build what they're about to do now. And so it was cool just being able to. We just had a joint practice with them last week, so seeing everybody, uh, and then playing against them on Thursday night last week was also dope. Seeing the guys and all that type of stuff. But yeah, it was definitely a good time for me.
And now that you finished your first preseason with the team, how have you been fitting in with Cincinnati? Like, I don't, I'm from Michigan. I don't like nothing about Ohio, but from your perspective, how have you been fitting in the city of Cincinnati?
I mean, it's been good, man. Honestly, I think it's probably the best city, vibe that I've had. Obviously, Buffalo wasn't much city vibe. Indy, I lived like 25 minutes from downtown, so it was a totally different vibe. But now being here in Cincinnati, we live very close, right, like 5 minutes from downtown. Um, but it's dope, man. Like it's so much to do. We're enjoying ourselves. It's like I said, so much to do. So we feel like you kind of get that normalcy. This we feel all the time, like football season, football season, football season. Like you're just stuck, in that
Mm-hmm.
one time zone. You feel like you get to be able to just jump out of it for a few minutes, an hour, or whatever, and then like have normalcy, and then go back to work. So it gives you a good balance. Like this allows me to have enough fuel, um, which I'm looking forward to for the rest of the year. And then exploring more of the cities, meeting new people, all that type of stuff, and playing in front of the fans. My first time in the stadium was Thursday night, under the lights with fans in there, and it was just a dope atmosphere. Obviously, I played it last year, but it was totally different. Obviously, when you're away teams, like you're not worried about nothing that they got going on in there besides this game. So, but being able to be in there the other week and kind of seeing the fans and how much they really love the team, and this really is a sports town. You can see it everywhere you go. Fans really love the team, and that's exciting. To be around. Because I was in Buffalo before, and I know what a really good fan base looks like. That's a great fan base they have there in Buffalo. So I know what it looks like, and Cincinnati definitely is up there.
You kind of had a same situation with the Colts where, JT got hurt and then you filled in those shoes quite well. And then now you find yourself in a similar position where Joe Mixon, who's, distinguished running back in Cincinnati, now with the Texans, ran a rock for the Bengals for a long time successfully. And they let him go and they bring in Zack Moss. You know, what was that like preparing for camp and getting ready for the season? When they think about the 2024 Bengals this season, they're going to think about Joe Burrow. They're going to think about Jamar Chase. They're going to think about T. Higgins, and they're going to think about Zack Moss. What does that mean to you and the groundwork that's been laid out in real time?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a huge opportunity. Like to be in this space now, the fifth year in the league and understand and been through so many different situations. Like I've been through pretty much every situation in the league that you could kind of go through. Like I've been through being traded. I've been through being drafted. I've been through, winning a ton of games in Buffalo. I've been through winning 4 games in Indy. I've been through being one of those teams right on the cusp when I was in Indy last year of making it to the playoffs. So now I've seen all those different things. I've been in when I was in Buffalo, you hear all the Super Bowl contender conversations and what that looks like. So I've been in all those situations. So now coming here, it's very similar to when I was in Buffalo, but it's different because you know year one when I was in Buffalo, we didn't have Super Bowl contender written over us. We're kind of more like a shock team, right? We made it to the championship game, but the next 2 seasons after that, it was Super Bowl or nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you see all the stuff about Josh and Diggs, Josh now, and all this stuff. But you know, so being out here, I take all of those experiences and I take how serious it is, and and I know what that looks like and what I have to be able to do mentally, right? To put myself in this space because it's hard when you're on a team. Like when I was in Indy last year, it was different. Where you know, no one was thinking of us to make the playoffs. No one was thinking of us to make the Super Bowl. Only people who were thinking of that was us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So every week it was different. We didn't have the scrutiny, the media attention, superstar quarterback, superstar receivers, and all that type of stuff. So now here you could feel it. As soon as I came into OTAs, you could feel how different it is. The team is really, really good. Like you don't go to 2 AFC championship games back to back and then actually go to the Super Bowl, right? And then be a few plays short of that.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't do that without having really good guys. So obviously, like you said, Joe, who is, one of the best, top 2 quarterbacks in the league, top 3, whatever you want to put it, he's legit. Like he is uh like super focused, laser locked in 24/7. Um, like he is a game he wants to win. He doesn't care about all the other things. He really wants to win. And for a running back, I'm back there 24/7, right? So my number one job before anything else is to protect him, right? Like that's the franchise, like that's the guy that you have to keep up, have to keep clean. Like in this league for running backs, you're pretty much an extension of the offensive line, right? So that is important. Like I understood that with Josh. And that was pretty much my role essentially in Buffalo was to be, short yardage and goal line and then be the guy to block. So, you know, that's my role also essentially here is to make sure I keep him clean, obviously, with those other guys. So, you know, I take that serious. That's super big. I take a lot of pride in pass blocking and knowing that and keeping that guy clean so that way he can go do what he has to go do to get the ball to the rest of those guys. And I mean, when you give this guy dude, and he's done it over, we're also the same draft class. So when you see this dude have time and be able to, he's so smart. Like definitely the smartest quarterback I've played with. Like being able to see what's about to happen, and we have a very good defense, and they disguise very well. So being able to see what's happening in front of him, diagnose it, get the ball out. Um, he's probably the quickest processing quarterback in the league. And I haven't even seen it in real game situations, which is ridiculous. So what I'm seeing in practice is, obviously what I've also seen over the course of his career and being a fan of that. So, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously we got two great weapons outside. I mean, you talk about, you know, top three duo receivers, and Jamar and T, and that really doesn't go. You don't really have to say much about those two guys and the success they've had in the league, and um, you know these guys are winners. T obviously been at Clemson, was a win in there. Um, Jamar and Joe obviously being at LSU. I mean, probably the greatest offensive season
Duo.
that you're probably ever going to see.
Hmm.
Honestly, like I don't really care how much offense progress, you're probably not going to see that type of connection. And then also talk about having Justin Jefferson on the other side of that, having to be able to like, that's a whole different conversation. Like you said, that's a whole different conversation.
Man, Terrence Marshall, another guy.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Mhm.
So it's like it's ridiculous. But so these guys are used to winning, right? So when I'm coming in, I'm expected to gravitate towards that automatically. Being a vet is part of that, like understanding your job and understanding your role and being consistent at it. That's been a big thing for me is consistency. Like, how consistent can I be at doing my job at a high level? Obviously, we're gonna have, you know, when we make mistakes. That's everybody. Like, we fumble, we throw picks, right? You bust a coverage, you get beat 1-on-1 off the line. Like things happen. That's life. Nothing's perfect. But it's about how consistent can you be, right? Like, and that's why I try to take in everything I do. It's not just the field. I learned it on the field, but I try to, progress that and bring it into my life. How consistent can I be as who I am, you know, every single day to show up for the people around me and things like that. So, um, you know, consistency is a huge thing to me. It's pretty much how I carry myself. Is can I be consistent? Like, can I be a consistent friend? Can I be a consistent person? Like, I don't look at myself as, you know, anything more than just who I am as a human. So, you know, getting back to, being here now, but, it's like I said, as long as I can be consistent, every time I've stepped on the field and I've been consistent at been, blocking or getting the ball, I've been able to produce. So, I'm not really, worried about, not being able to go out there and, have a good year and all those different things because, like I said, we have too much talent to for that not to kind of happen.
Mhm.
And when we have the success that we know we can have, like I said, all those things come with success. Like you never see a guy not have be able to produce and then the team have success still.
Mhm.
It kind of goes hand in hand to some degree. Like you never see bad quarterback play and then the team still
Mhm.
successful. It's like that's kind of
Mhm.
hard. Now you anomalies, but still it's never really happened. So, that's my biggest thing is being consistent. That's my mindset. Being consistent, come in every day, be the same guy, go to work, get in, get out, um, and being somebody that guys kind of like when I walk in the huddle, can Joe look at me confidently and know I'm going to be able to, make the right reads, running the ball. If he checks to a run, he's so smart. There's going to be times where he just checks to a run, even if it's a pass call, right? Or in the pass play, knowing my route, am I going to be where I need to be, right? Or if it's the blitz, being able to know that he's going to trust that I'm able to pick up the blitz. The offensive line going to be able to trust me that I'm consistent enough to put the ball where the ball is supposed to go. Am I going to make the right reads? Am I going to hear the communication when they're, calling out what the blitz, coverage that we need to go to here or whatever. So those are things I've learned over the years. Um, and like I said, those are the biggest things: communication and consistency on how I really think that's life, like in your relationship, communication, right? Consistency. Those things in life every single day are things that show up uh, in the grand scheme of things. And if we can be really good at that, uh, not master it, just be really good at it,
Mhm.
I think, be well off.
Well, man, I got a couple more questions for you, man, because I appreciate you so much for your time. I'm gonna have a field day with these answers that you've given me because you're making my job so easy right now. So I'm so happy we're doing this. You mentioned the people around you. I remember when I was about your age when I had my daughter, and that changed me and it amplified me in the same breath. How has being a new father and husband, affected you in your playing career and off the field?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been motivated on the field, and I think obviously you always have to have, I think, to do what I do, especially with the physical uh, contact that happens, and I've had 4 surgeries now, um, in my playing time, so to be able to get cut open and then rehab it, and then say, you know what, let's try this again. Uh, I think you got to have more than one motivational thing pushing you. And I think as life goes, different uh, motivations show up, right? Like high school, it was getting out of the situation I was living in Miami, right? College, it's now, all right, I'm out of that situation to some degree, but now it's, helping my mom get out of that situation. Then I get to NFL, maybe to move out of that situation. Now, what's the next motivation? You know, my wife, which was my girlfriend at the time, that like, how do I build, for us now? I've done steps, different motivation things that I've checked off the list, right? But if those were the only things motivating me, I could have been done. I could have said, I'm good here. I can stop,
Mhm.
right? But then it was her, and it's obviously still her. And obviously now my son, building a life for him um, that I didn't have. Like I didn't have, a dad that was in the house, so just that by itself is enough motivation, right? And then when you think about that, okay, how can I go out there and perform at the highest level? Because, playing this game, you have a chance to make enough money to where you don't essentially have to work if you do it right. Um, that allows me to be in the house even more, right? To be able to, teach them and coach them or whatever happens, with sports or whatever. But just being in the house, like having a father figure in the house for a male or a female is the biggest thing. Like it's the big, and that's a whole nother conversation. But uh, it's the biggest thing. So it's super important to me because I didn't have that, and I know what it took for me to have success and what I had to go through mentally, emotionally, every single day, right? To just to be able to say, damn, like that's a hard road, and then that's something you still feel to this day. Like you still feel that to this day, and you fight that every day.
Mhm.
So you know now it's them, right? And then it's wanting to be the best that you can be, wanting to be respected by your peers in your role, in your job, and things of that nature. Because no one wants just to be another guy. Like we don't do anything just to
Mhm.
be another guy. Like we do it so we can have the respect. We can have the respect of our peers. Nothing is more important, I think, when you're doing a job,
Mhm.
right? Than having the respect of your peers. When that person sees you and they respect what you do at a high level and they want to, you know, copycat it to some degree, right? They respect your game enough to say, you know what, I want to implement certain things that that guy does, right, into my life, my game, or whatever it may be. So that's huge to me. Um, I think you know, hopefully we want to have another one as well. So that's even more motivation uh, to want to be home with my kids and not have to be out 24/7 all the
Mhm.
time. Um, and and obviously be at home with my wife and things like that and create those memories. I'm big about creating memories. Because like I said, a lot of things that when we grow up in life, a lot of things that we try to do is try to reach is create things that we didn't have.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
So for
Mhm.
me, I didn't have, you know, a lot of memories. I'm huge on memories. Like I want memories, right? Especially with my kids and my wife. So I didn't have a dad in the house, so I want to be in the house. Right. So those are the things that are, super dear to me and that I work on every day, which allows me to get up every
Mhm.
day. 'Cause I've had a lot of success, I could stop, whatever. But those are things that make me want to continue to go every day. Body hurting today, all right, got to figure it out. This hurting today, got to figure it out, right? Now, play with a broken arm pretty much all last season, got to
Mhm.
figure it out. So
Mhm.
it's a lot of different things, and I've been blessed to be given the mindset to be able to endure a lot of different things, but still be able to push through and kind of see uh, the bigger picture and have a perspective that allows me to be able to do those things. So, you know, perspective is huge. You have perspective in life, you can really carve out the life you want. If you don't have a perspective, you're not gonna really be able to do what you want to do at all, I think.
Wow, man, I felt that, man, because I mean, growing up, I didn't have a father in my upbringing in the household, and football taught me so many things that my dad should have taught me. And then even still, as I become an adult, I realized like I was trying to fill a lot of voids consciously and subconsciously because he wasn't there through football and amongst other things through my life. So I felt that. I felt that, man. And to be home is always the goal. And so I try to do the same thing with my daughter, be there as much as I can and make those memories last because, they'll remember a lot more things than you will remember. Um, Last question for me, man. What would you name this chapter in your life and why?
That's a great question. That's a great question. Uh, Man, that's a really good question. What would I name this chapter of my life? Uh, Stamp. I would say stamp. How am I going to be able to stamp myself? Uh, because this is a big pivotal year. I could have chose the word pivot. Um, you know, and, but I think I already made a pivot. I think pivots happen all the time, but I think stamp so I can solidify, you know, who I am, what I've been able to do, and stamp and solidify the future of what I want, right? Because, you know, be able to have a great season this year, whatever, and be able to, that set me up for the next couple of years, essentially in my playing career. Because, you have to understand when this is all production based, you got to produce. So I'm able to produce this season, that'll set me up for year six, right? Then I'm able to produce year six, that'll set me up for year seven, eight, right? And those are the goals. You never know how long you're gonna play, but you have the ability to kind of change that day in and day out, every single day. Like, am I taking my supplement pills today? Am I taking my drinks today? Am I covering the right way today? Am I going to sleep on time? Am I, all these different things play into the next day, and all these days add up until okay, now you're in this moment. What did you do all these other moments? So, like I said, like being able to stay ready when I was in Buffalo, right? Staying consistent. If I was playing or not, scoring touchdowns or not, being consistent in my, off the field routines and not just being like, you know what, this isn't working. Let me go smoke. Let me go party. Let me go drink. Do all these different things that could now deter me from when that moment came. Now I'm not ready. Now I'm kind of behind the eight ball, right? So same thing now. What am I doing on a daily basis? So that way, when another moment comes, you never know when it's gonna come, but you gotta be ready in that moment. Like, especially in this business, you gotta be ready. It's not a chance to, oh well, we get another chance at it. No, it's not many chances. It's not many chances at all. You're lucky if you get it a second, and you damn sure lucky if you get a third.
Mhm.
So, you know, just being consistent. I think all that ties into being consistent. And I know if I'm being consistent at what I need to do, that'll set me up to be able to solidify and stamp, um, you know, all the areas where I want to put a stamp mark at. For sure.
Wow, man. Wow. This was awesome, man. I want to thank you so much for being on the show, taking your time out, man. And your head is in the right place, your faith is in the right place. You're making sure that the distractions aren't distracting you from your goals. I see it from afar. And I've seen you post a couple songs that I even listen to on a daily basis on the way to work, man. From
Yeah,
Marvin Sapp, you know what I'm saying? Like we here is the
yeah.
best way
Those are
to
every
say it.
day on the way in and the way out.
On the way in, you got to, man. You
Got
got
to.
to. You got to. Well, I want to leave you with this, man. I always wanted to do this. You're on my fantasy team, my friend. Right there, right next to Jahmyr Gibbs and T. Higgins is right there, man.
Okay, there it is.
Just want to let you know, brother. Like many other people who are gonna draft you this year, man. But I just had to let you know. I wanted to put that out there. Let you know you got my support, and I'll be keeping you in prayer. Healthy season,
Yeah.
blessed season, and we're gonna stamp this season and many more to come, my friend.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, my guy.